millionaire in all 6 aspects of health. That's right, we share tips every week to improve, obviously, your financial health, but also your physical health, your intellectual health, social health, spiritual health, and today we're focusing on your mental health. Our topic is fear. How to improve your mental health regarding fear. We've got 3 awesome guests out here. They're going to give us 3 awesome tips. If you've never seen Millionaires Are Made, this is the show built on the fundamental beliefs that every person you meet knows something you don't, and there's something to be learned from everyone, just like the shirt says. We are on a mission to teach the world how to grow into the healthiest, happiest millionaires in all aspects of life. So our 3 awesome guests are going to come and they're going to give us 3 awesome tips to improve our mental health regarding fear. In the spirit of authenticity, to try to remove as much bias as possible, we do not talk about our tips or advice before the show starts. So what they are about to tell you is going to be my first time hearing it as well. I'm super excited to see how this show goes. Audience, this is an interactive show, so please feel free to comment and ask questions. We will ask them live and put our guests on the hot seat and get you an answer right away. Quick shout out to some of our followers on Facebook: Gabriel Kexon, Instagram Roxandra, TikTok Breaking Free with Dana, YouTube we're Roxandra. Thank you for following us. If you want to be shouted out, all you got to do is follow us and we will shout you out on our show. If you want to be a guest on our show, I would love to say we always need guests. We love guests, good guests that don't cancel is always nice. We're dropping a link right now. You got something to share. I know you do. Everyone does. Sign up and come be a guest on our show. If you have a topic idea, we always love topic ideas as well, so we can go find the guest for you. Maybe you're struggling at some point in your life. Maybe your relationship or your bank account or your spiritual health is a little shaky. Feel free to let us know, and we will try to find some guests to help you out. If you like what we do, giving out advice and helping teach and grow the entire world, don't forget to like, comment, send stars, share, subscribe, whatever it is on whatever medium you're watching us. And if you like all sorts of information, I do offer free growth consultations. So if you want to talk one-on-one about something you might be going through or something you want to do, feel free to sign up. That link's being dropped. And another announcement, we do have merchandise available now. We just launched this a couple weeks ago. So if you want an awesome shirt, feel free to check the link that's being dropped right now. And finally, before we get started, huge thank you to our sponsors. We've got Craig Sakowski, who's a human behaviorist and mentor, helping entrepreneurs discover their true identity, purpose, and achieve growth in their business and life, which is the most important part. Check out Craig. He's awesome. His link's being dropped. Sarah Jones is one of our favorite guests / sponsors. Used to be buried in debt and a failing marriage in a big name debt relief company. Ended up canceling all that, went and studied and learned, and now is a financial coach helping people build healthy financial foundations and living an awesome life in like a 75-foot trailer with her husband traveling the U.S. Super awesome. Next sponsor is Dr. Nick Sotelo, licensed professional with a PhD, helping men manage anger with expert coaching. So if you find yourself a little angrier than usual, you might want to check out Nick and see if you can do something about that. And finally, we have Veronica Herrera, who is a life coach and host of the Thrive, Don't Survive podcast. Super awesome podcast you should check out. She empowers others with emotional regulation tools to transform challenges into thriving success. Huge shout out to our sponsors. Thank you all so much. And without further ado, we're going to bring out our first guest. Her name is Morgana. Morgana, who are you?
Hello, I am Morgana Marie. I am a neurodiversity advocate and high performance business intuitive. I have a cat here with me as well.
Wow. All right. Well, I got a question for you then. If I wanted to improve my mental health regarding fear, what piece of advice would you give me?
Lean into it, because fear is a distractory implant. So if you just lean into the fear and you just do it anyway, like you will be able to shift that fear so quick. So don't avoid it. Lean into it.
Lean into your fear. So let's give us an example of how that would work.
So, for example, I did a talk at the business show last year in London, and public speaking, believe it or not, has been one of my biggest challenges my whole life. Mentally, I struggled with communicating and speaking. And what I did is I felt the fear and I did it anyway. And I got up on stage and I was just vulnerable, authentic. I was myself. I didn't get caught up on whether I was going to get it wrong or not. And I just felt that energy. I felt the room and I just spoke. And that's a perfect example. It didn't come easy. It was a process, but I did it. And believe it or not, people were engaged. People really actually asked questions at the end. And I surprised myself.
All right. All right. Good. Another big fear people have is moving to new places. What are your thoughts on that?
Wow. Well, yeah, I can definitely speak on that myself because I recently moved from one city to another. And again, I felt the fear, did it
What city
anyway.
are you in now?
Well, I'm in Wolverhampton, Wolverhampton, in the Midlands now in the UK. So I've moved about 3 hours out from where I
Okay.
was. That's not my first move. I have moved before, about 4 hours away from where I was living. And I would say embrace change because change brings so much positive
Yeah.
in your life. And yeah, do it. Don't resist it because there's a reason why you're meant to be going somewhere. So follow that.
I love it. All right. Question then. Where on your life journey did you learn your tip?
I learned this from my own spiritual healing, my own growth, my own tools, a theta healer. So I learned through actually acknowledging that through, my teachers taught me how to do this, to listen in and just learn the message from the fear and do it.
Awesome. All right, Morgana. Well, we will move on to our next guest and bring you out for the round robin. Next up, we have Tina. Tina, tell us,
Yes,
who are you?
I am Tina C. Hines. I am a certified life coach, mother of one, wife of none, as I like to say.
Okay. All
And
right.
I work with women around the globe who are on their journey of living a more empowered life.
All right. Awesome. That makes life easier, I hope.
I hope.
Well, I've got a big question for you, Tina. If
Yes.
I wanted to improve my mental health regarding fear, what
Mhm.
tiny piece of advice would you give me?
Well, first you have to understand the difference between rational fear and irrational fear. So I would
Great.
encourage you to start there to define which fear you are working through.
How do you define them? Or is that too long of an
So
answer?
probably too long of an answer. I'll give you the edited version. The edited
Yeah.
version of a rational fear is you're afraid of something that's going to happen that has not even happened yet. And then something irrational is more of the a snake is going to bite me when I walk outside. Well, you don't know if you're going to walk outside and see a snake. You just make an assumption that you're walking outside and seeing a snake.
Okay.
And so, the identifying which fear it is that you're working through, and also you have to be willing to tap into what that fear is connected to.
Ooh, okay. Oh man, too many good tips there, Tina. We're gonna have to
I
talk
know.
about this in the discussion. I think rational versus irrational fear is going to be a large theme of this episode. I have a feeling.
Hmm.
Tell us this before we move on to our next guest, Tina. Where on your life journey did you learn this advice?
I could probably say it started out when I was going through my own personal healing journey of therapy and having a discussion with my therapist and him asking me some of those questions in the process of the work that we were doing together.
Okay, so a little therapy got you out there. Now you learned all about fear.
Little therapy is always helpful.
How often should you go to therapy?
It truly therapy is based on what your needs are. Sometimes you may start out going weekly, then other times you may start out peeling off a little bit and going every other week. But that is based on what you feel that your needs are, and that's something
That's
that
your
you and your clinician can discuss. There's that fine line between therapy and coaching that I don't cross. So it's not something that I can identify for you. Only you and your therapist can decide that.
awesome. I think I just blacked out for a second there. Tina, it looks like Dana's ready, so we're gonna go ahead and
Oh,
bring her
okay.
out as well. All right. Thank you
Okay,
so
great.
much.
Yes.
Hey, Dana, tell us who you are.
Hi, I'm Dana. I am a mother of two, both who have chronic illnesses. My youngest has dealt with mental health, and so um, I am by no means an expert, but I can absolutely talk about the impact that it has on a family.
Okay, well, let's hear your tip then. If I wanted to improve my mental health regarding fear, what tiny piece of advice would you give me?
I think the biggest thing is to understand that you're not alone.
That's good.
Tina was talking about the rational and irrational. When you're going through something, it may be irrational to you to think that that snake's not out there, but to me it's real. It's very real. And so sometimes we can't define the rational or irrational because it just depends on where we are and what we feel is happening at the time.
Fantastic way to put that. Dana, where on your life journey did you learn this advice?
um Through going through it with my daughter, I learned a lot. And not only did I realize that she needed therapy, but as her mother, I needed it because I needed to know how to help her, and how not to lose it myself, because I didn't understand. So it was a long, hard road, but she's come out the other end, so it's all good.
Good. That's awesome to hear. Good for you. All right, I think that it's time to bring out our round robin. So we're gonna bring everyone else out, Dana, and
Perfect.
let's talk about some fear. Yeehaw. All right. Well, let's try to make this a little simple. We'll just start. Morgana, what was your tip?
So my tip was feel the fear and lean into it.
Lean into it. And audience, this is a great time to ask questions as well, and we'll answer them live. Tina, what are your thoughts on Morgana's tip?
Um, when we think about leaning into it, I think that I have two thoughts on it. Yes, lean into it, but also go as you're leaning into it, try to understand what that fear again is associated with. Because as you're trying to lean into it, you're like, oh, wait a minute, but no, this doesn't work for me, and this is uncomfortable, and I don't want to do it. And sometimes that's where guidance is needed. And that's the part where someone can walk with you and hold your hand through the process. And also, with that person who's walking through it with you, making sure that that person has a level of understanding, and it's not based on what they feel you should feel it should be and look like. And that's what we were talking about in the green room. It looks different for everybody, and what your experience is going to be is based on what you are working through on your own. So it's nice to have that compassionate person, that understanding person, the person that sees and hears you as you are navigating that fear.
Awesome. I love it. All right. Well, we're going to move on. We just got a question from the audience. Sometimes fear comes from others' expectations or judgment. How do you set boundaries to protect your mental space?
Mm.
Anyone can take this.
Yeah, you need to be in discernment of, who does it belong to? Because ultimately, when you're in question of these expectations of judgments of others and who does it belong to and being the question, you don't attach yourself to that energetically. You don't get entangled in their points of views or their judgments, so you don't become that. And you're in your power then because they have that point of view, but that's not your point of view. So you can be like, interesting point of view that you have that, but it's not mine. So that's ultimately how you remain in your peace and protect your mental space.
I love that you said, Morgana, that it's not mine. And
Yeah.
people have to understand that when you're setting boundaries, the boundaries are not just for other people, they're also for yourself. And
Yes.
that is part of your protection mechanism to be crystal clear about what those boundaries are and have an understanding of it.
Mhm.
And when it comes to people who judgment, I honestly just always say this, regardless of whether it's good, bad, or indifferent, people are always going to judge. It's just human nature. For some, it's human nature. And you can't live your life based on their judgment or their expectations, because your emotional well-being is your responsibility. Your
Yeah, that's a
your
good
your
point.
your peace is your priority. All of these things that are important for you, but only the person in the mirror knows that.
All right, I'm gonna pipe in here real quick. So something recently I've learned is that people that are neurospicy with ADD um, worry a lot more about people liking them. And if you don't message, like if you don't give us a text within a week, we think you hate us forever. So there's evidence that neurospicy people do a lot more to try to like, I guess, look cooler or try to get that like I guess dopamine rush to make sure that they are liked and loved. And so then it makes it even harder. Like essentially people pleasers, right? You're like, I want you to like me so much that I'll do whatever you want. So how, if you're a people pleaser, how do yeah, you have ADD like crazy. Sorry, we have a guest here that's shy of the camera, but so how do people like that, people pleasers, people with ADD, the people that really, really, really want that affection, where do we get that fear of being disliked, and how do we set boundaries stronger, better, and how are we able to be happy with those boundaries? It's one thing to set the boundary, and then you have to send that message, hey, this violates my boundary, whatever, I don't like this. But then sometimes you're still feared and unhappy about that. So how do we learn? What's some tips maybe that you guys can give to how to maintain your peace and like align that with your happiness?
I think the biggest thing there is that you have to learn to like yourself, because I think sometimes, and I can say this as a former people pleaser, you're looking for that validation from others, and you can't give it to yourself. So once I found my voice and set those boundaries, I became a completely different person. So I think that, you have to find it in yourself. And then once you find it in yourself, you get to the point where it just doesn't matter. I subscribe to the let them mode, let them do it. Let them do it. Let them think about it. Let them worry about it. It's not my concern what they think. I can't change their mind. And I know that I'm good enough and smart enough and happy enough to live my life without their opinion. So I'm going to do it.
All right. And okay. Anyone want to add on to that?
Yes.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
think
of course.
that things are, you're creating a new behavior. And with that new behavior, it's a process to do it repetitively. So when you are struggling with the need for validation from other people, it's what new behavior can I set for myself, that if I don't get what I need from Austin, how can I say in a way that's going to be okay for me, and this is what I need from you, or this is what I it's okay if you don't do X, Y, and Z. And I'm like all over the place a little bit here, but sometimes it's you creating something new for yourself. So it's putting it on repeat of, if I'm going to interact with these types of people and these are the behaviors that they're going to have, this is how I'm going to respond to it, so I can still feed myself and give myself what I need. But everything takes time, because it's not going to happen overnight. It's going to be a new behavior that you need to learn in order to start implementing, and you have to be repetitious. And sometimes it may require tweaking along the way based on the feedback that you get regarding it. Um, so yeah, that's a little bit of what my thoughts are on that.
All right, we've got a few more questions. You guys want to move on to the next one?
Yes.
I had a good feeling this would be a question-filled one. All right. Oh no, oh no. What's a mindset shift that helped you stop letting fear run the show?
Oh, I would say that the question, I love questions in like, instead of becoming a conclusion of your life, like this is going to happen and you cement it into into your world. I like to be in the question of, if I choose this, or if I make this decision, what is it going to create for me? Is it going to create greater or less? So you kind of function from your awareness and you can perceive what it's going to create. And then ultimately what you said earlier is about rationalizing that and then being able to follow the energy based on that. So I always love asking a question, because questions create awareness of what's going to happen, because you know, it's about reading the energy of a situation. So that's what I would suggest.
I've
Awesome. You ready
learned.
for another question?
Oh, I was about to answer the question, but it's
Do it.
okay. Go ahead.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Oh,
We got time.
so here's what I've learned when it comes to fear for myself. Um, I can't operate in that space of fear because fear will limit me. Fear will limit me, and it will stop me from doing so much in my life. So I try to observe what in my past life, things that have happened after the fact. So just a little bit of a story. I experienced where someone had negatively, I had a negative had a negative impact on me. Someone had broken into my home. So after that happened, I consistently had fear surrounding going outside the home, but I could not stay stuck in that space because it was not helping me as I moved forward. So after I got out of that living in that place that triggered the fear and lived in a better place with an alarm on my house and everything else, I focused on what happened afterwards. I never focused on what happened on a particular date and everything that transpired in the process of it. I try to keep my mind focused on the positive. It's like people who have 10 things to do, they do nine of them right and one of them wrong. And they keep leaning into that one thing that they've done wrong versus sitting in gratitude for the nine things that they've done right. I don't sit in the pain of what happened in my house in the past. I sit in the power of what happened and the gratitude of what happened afterwards, what I was able to acquire afterwards. And that's how I chose to make a mindset shift surrounding that negative experience.
That's a good point. That's a good point. People focus so much on that one little thing, or they didn't do it perfect, or this or that. I think perfectionism's overrated too. Yeah, you like that? All right. Well, let's get another question. We've got a few lining up here. So we've got Lilith says, "How do you differentiate between intuitive caution and fear that's holding you back unnecessarily?" Ooh, what a great question.
Ooh, great question. Well, they're very different energies. I would say intuitive caution is being in awareness of what is, you know, you're getting more information through that caution, that intuitive caution. So again, for me, I think that comes from being in your discernment. And fear, like fear is like, I always remember someone saying false evidence appearing real. So is it really real? So intuitive caution is yeah, about having discernment, and fear is not really real anyway. So yeah, that's what I would say to that.
All right, fantastic. Anyone else want to answer that?
Personally, I feel like intuitive caution is uh, real. I think that there are reasons
Yeah.
that you feel the way that you feel. I think that the universe will send out that sign of some way letting you know that something's not right. And I would, I pay way more attention to the intuitive caution um, than anything, because I think that you do know when something's not right. I think you are told in some way. And I think you need to definitely learn to pay attention to that.
Okay, and how do you
When
know if it's just you being having fear for maybe a reason that's not necessarily that big of a reason? Like public speaking, like Morgana said, her example earlier.
Well, for public speaking, I think that that can be a fear that you can overcome, that you lean into, as she said. The intuitive caution, I think that's something that comes to you in certain situations. If I'm walking down the street and all of a sudden I feel uncomfortable, somebody is watching me, something doesn't feel right, I'm going to pay attention to that and I'm going to find a place where I feel safe. Um, so I think that's where they kind of differ. Um, and the public speaking I can lean into, the intuitive caution I'm going to pay attention to and respond.
Gotcha. Okay, well said. Well said. Should we move to another question? Tina, do you want to say something?
So I'm an intuitive clairvoyant and I'm a medium and I'm a healer. Fifth generation. And when I think about intuitive, I always say our body speaks very loud. Our body gives us signals. Our body gives us signs, whether it's a little ping in our stomach, a flutter in our heart. It speaks louder than everything else. Sometimes we turn the volume down because we choose not to listen. And we know, I don't want to say necessarily we know the difference between what is the fear and what is the intuitive, but I think that everybody, you don't have to be a fifth generation like myself, everybody has a form of intuition. And you know when things are sitting well with your soul and when they are not. Um, and you know that sometimes that fear is just, sometimes the fear is not even your own. Sometimes that fear is other people's fear that they've
Mhm.
impressed upon you, and now you're carrying it on their behalf because they have said, oh, don't go over there because it's not going to be a good space for you. And at the same time, if they went over there and it wasn't a good space for them, you may go over there and have a different type of interaction, but they've placed their fear on upon you, and now you're holding it hostage. So your intuition speaks. Lean into it and listen to it. If it tells you to do one thing, don't be like, oh, I'm going to go against my intuition and do something else, because we're all guilty of it. We've all done it. But there's a way to identify. Fear is going to be something like the hair standing up on your body. Your intuition is going to be like little pings that you get. That I'm going to keep digging until you start listening to me.
Okay, I think that's a good explanation. All right, let's move on to the next one. Oh, it is getting late. So we've got Christine. For someone listening right now who feels stuck in fear, what would you say to them?
I would say identify it and face it, and therapy. Learn how to work through it. And don't think that you're alone. Because if your fear is of snakes, there's other people out there that are scared of that. So, but I think therapy is the absolute best way to learn how to work through that.
Yeah, I would agree as well, because someone that's had several near-death experiences with car accidents, I could have chosen to never got in a car again. So I would say choice. Don't forget we have choice. So you can either choose to get in the car again and learn to drive and, trust yourself again, trust the road and learn skills, and or you can choose not to. So don't forget that you have choice. Always have choice, and functioning from choice rather than no choice. Because no choice is like, okay, I just am the fear. I have no choice. I don't have anything else available to me here. Choice allows you to seek other possibilities and move through it. So yeah, I second that 100%.
And I would also like to add that for the person who is stuck in fear, they also have to ask themselves, are they ready to work on it? because we can give all of these amazing suggestions, but if a person truly is not ready, because they know what they're dealing with in one particular space, when they start to pivot and go into another area, that's unfamiliar territory. And they don't know what their experience is going to be. They're uncertain of what it's going to be. So it also makes them pull back a little bit. So they have to also ask themselves, is this a particular situation that I am ready to um, stick my toe in versus diving deep into it first? To understand what this fear is connected to, because it could be a myriad of reasonings of what it's connected to. It could be triggered by something in the past, and that past experience they may not be ready to explore again. So the key is understanding, am I ready to explore the fear? And if this fear is going to take me back to my past, am I ready to take that path as well? So having a great support system is always key with that.
Fantastic. All right, let's do one more question here. It says for Dana, but we're going to open up to anyone. What's one fear that surprised you, maybe seems small, but had a big impact on your mental health?
So since Dana's not here, I'll go ahead
Oh,
and
yeah,
answer
it's
the
for
question.
everyone.
Um, I can say that the first trigger for my mental health was my my mom my mom getting sick. My mom suffering a ruptured cerebral aneurysm, and I'm an only child, and I had to take care of her. So in the process of the fear of losing my mother, and the fear of all the decisions that I had to make, that was triggering for my mental health. And that's actually was the first time I had experienced clinical depression personally, because I was so busy, and a lot of us people do that. Women, I'm going to say women, sorry, Austin. A lot of us women do that. We're so busy taking care of everybody else that we forget to take care of ourselves. And that was the trigger for me. I was so busy taking care of my mom, my son, my boss, while I'm taking care of my mom, that I forgot to take care of myself. And it made a big impact on my mental health, and it triggered the clinical depression.
Morgana, anything you want to add to that?
Yeah, do you know, it's quite interesting you say that, because I had a massive trigger from my mum being really unwell. She had a heart attack, and I know you said about that earlier. And yeah, for me, that triggered me, and I went into such significance with it, and into this fear with it, like, oh my god, I'm gonna lose her. What if it happens to me? And I made it so significant that I actually ended up becoming that. I actually caused myself like this horrendous anxiety to the point where I thought I was gonna have a heart attack. Like, I could just feel this like pain in the body, and I started to sort of become that. We make it so significant. And that was my trigger to my mental health getting worse at that time. And I actually thought I had something wrong with my heart. I had to go to the doctors and get a scan, and you know, it really, really created a big impact in my world. Luckily, I didn't have any issues, but there was something that needed to be looked at as well. And I managed to heal through this. But yeah, it created a ripple effect in my life at the time. So yeah, interesting.
That's so true, Morgana, because after my mom having her aneurysm, every time I had a headache, I'm like thinking, "Oh my God, I'm going to have an aneurysm," because it's just because of that family thing that's connected. And when
Yeah,
you feel those same triggers within your body, you immediately go back to that experience. So I 100% agree and get you on that.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. Something to be aware of. Yeah.
Awesome. All right, guys. Well, we are going to have to wrap this up. So that brings us to my favorite part, where we have to come up with a daily challenge. This is a challenge to help us improve our mental health regarding fear. This challenge must take less than 5 minutes a day, cost $0, and be available to anyone in the world. What ideas do you guys have?
So the idea I have, I'm a huge advocate for journaling. I like to say releasing the pain through your pen.
That was
And
mine.
you can borrow it too. I always encourage my clients to journal. Journaling is a relief. Some people feel that journaling, that means you're dredging up a lot of the pain, but it doesn't have to just be pain. It could be the positive experiences that you had in your life as well. So it doesn't cost anything to pull out a pen and paper and start writing, or drop it in your phone if you have a fear of someone reading your journal. And also grounding yourself through guided meditation. YouTube has some amazing meditations. I love the Honest Guys. They have great meditations that help you center and ground yourself.
So journaling maybe something like could be like write down one fear you have may happen today, one fear that may happen in the next month, and one fear that may happen in the next year. And we can try to
Um,
identify those fears.
no, I wouldn't go that direction. I would probably ask the question of how has fear limited you? And if you overcome your fear, what do you think can happen? What is the positive thing? Because you want to shift it to something more positive versus 5 years out of fear holding you stuck.
So how do we do that every day? You ask the same question. How has fear limited me every day?
No, how has fear limited me today? And what could I have done? What could I have done differently? How has fear limited me today, and what could I do have done differently?
And then if you journal in the morning, you can just answer this about the yesterday or whatever.
Yes.
Okay, so we'll ask that question. How did fear limit me today or yesterday? And how could I have done things differently? Okay?
Yeah.
Any
And what could I have done
I mean, that,
differently?
that
Yes.
could take 5 minutes, depending on how in depth you want to get. Maybe let's add one more tiny thing. Anything, Morgana or Dana, you guys want to add in real quick?
Yeah, I would say um, for every fear that comes up that you're aware of, ask the question, who does it belong to? Because most of these fears don't belong to us. It's so simple. And you can do it multiple times throughout the day as well. It doesn't take long. And you should lighten up because those fears are heavy energy and most of the time it's not ours.
So you said multiple times throughout the day, or only do it when you feel fear?
When you feel fear, mainly, yeah.
It's gonna be interesting to find out if. All right, so when you show fear, ask whose it is. That's the question we should be asking.
Yeah, you don't need to not know who exactly is it, but it's just asking that question. It allows you to lighten up. You get the awareness and you realize it's not actually mine.
I mean, we could even, while we're doing our journaling, we could even ask that question. How did fear
Yeah.
limit me? And then we can go, okay, how could I have done it differently? And we can ask, whose fear was it?
Yeah.
Cool. All right, any last second things we want to add before we wrap this up? Fantastic. All right, well, thank you guys so much for coming out. We've got an
Thank
awesome
you.
daily challenge. Every day we are going to ask ourselves, and you can write it down in a journal if you choose, or I guess you can do a video journal, however you decide to do the challenge. How has fear limited me today? What could I have done differently? And whose fear was it? Sound good? Awesome.
Great.
Huge shout
Awesome.
out. Thank you to our guests so much. We'll put you guys backstage and wrap this show up. And thank you guys so much for watching, viewers. Hopefully, you guys learned something about fear. Lean into it, learn about it. A lot of difference. We talked about irrational fear versus rational fear. We talked about intuitive caution. Woo, there was a lot we covered on this